Welcome back, everyone, to the Off Campus Podcast. In this episode, I am joined by myself, actually. I'm joined by no one. I thought I'd do, coming up on 1 year of podcasting, I thought I'd make an episode kind of talking about the things that I've learned throughout this year. They're not all from the podcast, but some of them are, and some of them are stuff I learned outside of the podcast, doing research for it. And a lot of these actually pertain to the podcast. Because the last year, it's kind of been a focus of mine. Besides work, besides lifting, besides my health, the podcast has kind of been, it's been up there in my priorities at certain points. Not the whole time for sure, but I've had a few health issues in the past year. I wouldn't say issues. Maybe I would say issues. Not serious, but definitely annoying, and it's been over a year, I guess. So when I first started this podcast, I felt the same way as I do now. A little better, but not looking for sympathy there. Just definitely when you're not feeling 100% for a long time, for a long amount of time, you do learn a lot about yourself, and you do learn a lot about the world, and I don't know. So I think that's played a role on how I've matured in this past year. I'm only 20 years old. I've been doing this for a year. So I do need to learn to be a little patient. I get very impatient, especially with growing this podcast. I want it to do well. I want a lot of people watching me and learning from me. Not necessarily from me, but I also want to learn from the people that I'm talking to. And I want you to learn from the people that I'm talking to. So I do need to learn to be a little more patient with the growth, I think. It's definitely tough being like how I am. I am very impatient. So in this year, I think I have 224 subscribers right now. I still think there's like 20 days until it's been a year exact from my first episodes released. But I'm recording this now because I'm going to be very busy in that time. I uploaded December 30th, and it's December 10th right now. I just uploaded December 30th, 2022. So, I don't know. I guess, actually, that's kind of nice because my yearly data is all, like, basically the entirety of 2023, minus 1 day. Anyway, we'll get right into it. This first lesson is something I've actually changed my mind on, and I talked about it in the way that I don't believe in it now in past podcasts. So, the importance of girlfriends for guys. I used to think that guys and girls didn't really have any reason to be friends, and generally when a guy was friends with a girl, and I think this is still true for the most part in high school, the guy just wants to sleep with the girl, or he just wants to date the girl. He generally doesn't just want to be friends with her, and I still do think this is true, but I think it's a lot less common than I used to think. So, I don't know, a good example of this is in a work setting. Girls and guys can be very good friends in a work setting if they're working towards a goal. In a church setting, anything, I'd say, where they're in the pursuit of something higher than themselves. Girls and guys can be very good friends. But I also used to think that if I wanted advice on anything in my life, generally I'm asking for a man's advice because I am a man, so I need to know what other men would do in this situation. So that's one of the reasons why I thought that friends that are girls are not really needed for guys. But after seeing Sadia Khan on Modern Wisdom, I kind of changed my mind on this. I mean, she had a very compelling talk to Chris Williamson about how friends that are girls for guys are kind of testing ground for dating for these men. It's how do you treat a woman? What stuff is acceptable to say to women that is different to men. Like, you need to be around women who aren't your mom, who aren't your sister, to learn how to treat women, talk to women, and ultimately a friend that is a girl is kind of a testing ground for that. And it's sort of practice. So I don't know. I mean, I think that was very compelling to me. And I used to not really think that was necessary, but now I do. And now I'm kind of upset that I don't have that many friends that are girls. I mean, I have a couple, but not as many as I used to. Lesson number 2. Growth is slow at the start. Learn to enjoy the ride. And attached to this, I wrote also very exponential. So growth is exponential. But it is slow at the start. I mean, it's very obvious with the podcast. It's obvious in any business. The hardest thing is to get up off your feet and start walking. Once you start walking, you realize that it's very exponential. And once it hits, it hits. So podcast is a good example of this. Growth is very slow at the start. I think I have, what I said, 224 subscribers, 228 subscribers, something like that. Doesn't really matter, I guess. Less than an average of 1 subscriber per day in 2023. Less than 1. And you may think that's very low. And yes, it is low. But for a first year, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, this is my only YouTube channel, so I guess I don't really have any reference. But 60 of my subscribers have been in the past month. So before that, it took me 10 months, 11 months to get 160, 170, whatever it is. So basically 25% of my subscribers have been gained in the last 10% of my podcast, how long my podcast has been around. I guess the math doesn't really matter there, but point is, I was growing subscribers very slowly to start, and now it's starting to pick up. And I wouldn't say it's a lot now, but it's more than it was. So, and I believe it's going to continue to be more than it was, and I'm basically going to be saying that every month and every year. Hopefully. I mean, I must be doing something extremely wrong if I'm not exponentially gaining subscribers, gaining views on these podcasts. And that's another thing. That's why I need to be patient with myself and with this podcast. Is that everything is exponential, especially on social media. So, got to learn to enjoy the ride. And I do really enjoy the ride. I'm not saying it's not a lot of work, because it definitely is. I have to edit all these. I have to make the clips. I have to make the shorts. I have to do all that, upload them, schedule time with people. But ultimately, I think it's worth it. And the actual conversations that I have with people, and even this right now, is so gratifying to me. It's so fun that the rest of it is easier. It's not easy. It takes time, but I know I'm building something that I am going to be proud of in the future. And I am proud of now, but I think that's a small pride. Lesson number 3. If you are doing well in a job that you hate, imagine how well you'd be doing in a job that you love. I mentioned this in the last podcast with Dan Murphy. I think this is an Alex Hormozy thing. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I'm pretty sure it is. And, it ties back to passions, and you should be doing something that you love instead of something that you hate. Usually a pay cut is worth it if you actually enjoy the job that you're doing. And I think this is especially good advice for people who are living at home, especially people who are younger than me. I'm 20 years old. But even, I'd say, I don't know, up to 25, 26, as long as you're not established in the world and you don't have a family to, put the food on the table, stuff like that. I mean, it's just not worth doing something that you hate for your entire life just because you like the money. And that is something I've also changed my mind on a little bit. I used to think that you should torture yourself. Well, not necessarily, but if you have to torture yourself to get a lot of money, it's worth it because you're going to have money in the future and you can take the time off then and do what you love to do then. But I guess this kind of ties into the last one, which is like you do have to enjoy the ride. And if you don't enjoy the ride, I don't know, you're going to be happy when you're done with a torturous job for 50 years. But you're also going to be kind of disappointed and think, wow, why did I do that to myself? So that's why I have vowed to do what I love to do. And if I hate doing what I'm doing, obviously work isn't exactly fun for everyone. It's fun for some people. But like me, I don't exactly enjoy every part of work. I like what I do, though. And I think I would be satisfied doing it the rest of my life. So that's why I'm doing it. If I didn't, then I wouldn't. And I know that I'd be doing a way worse job at something that I hate to do. That's just how it is. When people first get their jobs, let's say I'm 14 years old, you start working at Market Basket. No one at 14 wants to be working at Market Basket. I mean, you want the money, but you don't want to be there. So when you're there, you're lazy, you just don't work as hard as you can, you're just staring at the clock waiting to get out. But if you vowed and said, I don't know why I'm using the word vow, but if you just told yourself that you're going to have a good time and you convince yourself that you love doing this, you're probably going to have a better time anyway. But I don't know, it just ties back into it. Like, if you don't like what you're doing, you're probably not going to do as great of a job as if you actually enjoyed it doing that. This is kind of who's going to walk farther, the person who loves the destination or the person who loves to walk. I guess that kind of sums it up. Number 4. Most people who are making money doing something they love did that thing for free for a while. This kind of applies to any independent workers. So social media, if you have your own company. Obviously, you might have revenue to start. When you're starting a company, you might already, like in the first month, year, you might have revenue, but maybe not net positive on the money aspect. But especially with social media, like Joe Rogan, when he started his podcast, he wasn't, I would assume, I don't know for sure, but I would assume he wasn't making money at all to start. He only started making money when he got a lot more eyes on him. And the reason he did that, the reason people do social media, even when they're not making any money, like I am with this podcast, is that I love it. I love doing this. So I'm willing to do it for free. Not forever, but for a while. For a while. That I attached at the end, it's not forever. If you're doing what you love and you're good at it and you are providing value to other people, generally you can find a way to make money through it. That's a good one. Number 5. This isn't really a lesson for you guys, but for myself, I learned my love for psychology and evolutionary psychology. It makes me view people very differently. It makes me understand people better. And I don't know where I got this, if it was from Chris Williamson or from Jordan Peterson, but I really do love psychology. I think it's really crazy to see how much correlation people's nature has to do with their behaviors, and not exactly how they grew up, but literally because of who they are and how women's brains work and why they do certain things and why they like certain men. It's really intriguing to me. And I think if I were to not sell motorcycles and not do this podcast, what I'd want to do if I realize this in time, what I'd want to do with my life is be a psychologist, a therapist. I think that'd be very, very, very cool because I don't necessarily now have the knowledge of how people work and how people's brains work and why people do the things that they do, but I have the interest in it. And I don't know. I think it's just really important. And you can really understand people better when you realize why they do the things that they do. That's pretty obvious. So it helps you understand people. You aren't quick to blame. A lot of the times you can see stuff behind the scenes that other people don't see. And if you see someone do something that you don't exactly like, you might think, wow, well, they're going through this, or they're having a tough time with a certain relationship here, and that's why they're treating, I don't know, like a man who is upset because his girlfriend doesn't really open up to him, or his wife doesn't open up to him, and she kind of, I don't know, he realizes that maybe the problem wasn't even with his girlfriend not opening up, but the problem was that his mom never opened up. And so when someone's slow to open up to you and be open, it kind of hurts you more than it would someone else, you know? And I don't know, some people are built to be more closed in, and some people are built to be more outward and talkative. It's just how people are. I mean, basically, nature versus nurture. Twins, if they're separated at birth, and, you know, nurture does have a big part to play, but generally, twins will end up kind of on the same path, even if they're raised up in completely different circumstances, because they have the same genetics. They have the same, I don't know. Do twins have the same interests? Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But I'm assuming they do. They have the same genes, I guess. So, I don't know. It's just, I think that's really, really cool too. Like, just realizing nature, how much of a role nature plays into it and how little nurture does. I mean, nurture still plays a significant role, definitely can impact a human and their outcomes in life, of course. I mean, of course. But, yeah. Excuse me. Lesson number 6 is kind of a longer one, and it's about red pill and the black pill. And I said they are equally as destructive personally and socially as the feminization of modern men. So red pill and black pill, I guess their main critique of the modern world is the feminization of men and how men are, I don't know, we're told that being a man is bad and you should act more like a woman, and not explicitly, but sometimes explicitly, and definitely with other things that people say. So I think it's equally as destructive. Red pill and black pill are equally as destructive, if not more, personally for the person and socially in society, obviously, as the feminization of modern men. And the solution to a tough dating market is not to retreat or wage war. So black pill tends to retreat, red pill tends to wage war. But the right lesson to learn from that is to bring what you can to the table and encourage others to do the same. There's still good men and women, even if it seems more difficult to find them. And I think it's not necessarily because there's less of them, but the people who are not great men and women to date, to be friends with, those are generally the louder people, especially on social media. I'm not saying I am a bad person because I upload on social media, and I don't think anyone is just because they upload. But generally, the people who are chronically on their phones, uploading on social media, commenting, stuff like that, I don't know, you see that and you think, wow, the world is doomed. But there's a lot more people like you than you may think. A lot more positive, well-meaning people in the world than you may think. So red pill, that idea is destructive personally because I don't know, the whole idea of getting out of the matrix. I hate that, the matrix. But the matrix in what the red pill is talking about is the 9-to-5 job. You're stuck. You will never have enough money to make it out of your job and do what you want to do, and you're going to forever be a slave to this job and the system. You can't control the system. You're stuck in the system. It's ultimately being a slave to the system. That's what the matrix is in this red pill idea. But like Murph said in the last podcast, the problem with red pill is that they obsess so much over the money and the women and the watch and the lifestyle, the cars, that's almost more of a curse upon yourself than just being stuck in a 9-to-5 job. Because there's a select number of people who are going to have as much money as Andrew Tate and live the life that Andrew Tate lives. But that's not realistic for most people. So most of these red pill guys are just setting unrealistic standards for themselves, for their lives, for other people's lives, and they think anything short of that is a failure. And ultimately, I think that's going to lead to more disappointment than just being in your 9-to-5 job and having a family that maybe you're having a struggle getting by, but at least you're living life. And at least you can be satisfied with something. And you're not pursuing something that is completely unreasonable. And then I think Black Pill is sort of the same thing. I mean, Black Pill they just retreat and I don't know, if you can't get what you want, you must learn to want what you can get. And that's the Black Pill, I guess. That sums it up. Not rule. I'm so used to the 12 Rules for Life series that now I'm thinking in rules. Lesson number 7. Many people who do not know you will support you more than many of those closest to you. And this is no diss to the people closest to me, because a lot of the people that are very closest to me, like my parents, like my best friend Derek, some other people, are very supportive of this podcast, and they say they like listening to it. They offer suggestions on when I do things wrong, when they think I can improve in certain ways. They are very encouraging. And so now I'm not talking about everyone who's closest to me, but there's also the people that are closest to me that, don't even listen to the podcast. They don't really care. I mean, they want me to succeed, but they don't have any interest in watching it, listening to it, learning what I tell them is very important to learn. So sometimes I text my friends and I'm like, yo, I heard this idea. I learned it from my podcast or another podcast, I guess. And I think you should listen to this. I think it's really going to change your view on, a certain topic. And a lot of the times the people they're closest to me, they love me and I love them. They just don't really care. I don't know. Maybe they're so used to me uploading the podcast where they don't really think it's anything significant. And so I didn't want it to be a diss on those people, but I guess the more important part of this is the beginning, where many people who you don't know and don't know you will support you. And I don't know, it's just the positive comments mean a lot to me on these, and I'm not fishing for encouragement, and I don't need it. I am very, very aware that comments online anywhere, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, are generally negative. They are probably 75% negative, at least, on everyone's channel, not just mine. I mean, if it was just mine, then I'm probably doing something wrong. But usually, like, if someone likes a YouTube short that they see, they're just going to like it and scroll on. If someone doesn't like a YouTube short, they're going to comment and be like, oh, I hate this. You're stupid. So I'm aware, and that doesn't affect me. But it does mean that when there are positive comments, it really means a lot because someone went out of their way to throw me some encouragement. And, sometimes, some days I do need that. I don't need it to keep moving on, but I need it to enjoy moving on, I guess. And helps me stay positive for the future and where this leads. Number 8, comparison can supercharge you or paralyze you. And these are kind of polar opposites, I guess. Comparison can supercharge. That's very positive. And it can paralyze you, which is, they're both very true. They're both very true. I've talked about this plenty with my friends, and this is where I really this is something that I have learned from the podcast, and I kind of knew it, but wasn't able to put it into words. Comparing myself to my friends who are maybe a step above me, it's very positive because it really pushes me to step up one. And I don't know, I've been doing these cold plunges every day, and I don't think I'd do them if my cousin wasn't doing them, if my uncle wasn't doing them. But they're texting me, hey, did you cold plunge today? Do you want a cold plunge? I don't know. It really pushes me to become a better person. Comparing myself to someone who's a million steps above me, say me comparing myself to Joe Rogan. I have a good positive viewpoint on it where I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can get to that level someday. And realistically, maybe I can't. Probably I can't, but who knows? So I have a good outlook on that. But I think most people, and I'm not saying that to talk myself up. I try to be humble as much as possible. But I have learned that from plenty of people. It's not something I realized myself. The way that I could turn that and make it a negative thing is saying, wow, Joe Rogan has 20 million people who listen to each podcast he releases. I have 30 or whatever. Even if I have thousands, that's way less than 20 million. I can just be like, wow, I'm never going to get to that situation, so I'm not even going to try. Like I said, if you can't get what you want, you must learn, you must teach yourself to want what you can get. And yeah, same thing in the gym. I think that's why a lot of people go to the gym and they stop going basically immediately, is because they see some of the dudes there and they're like, wow, I am never going to be able to bench 315. So I am not even going to start. I'm not I don't know, you're too scared of being judged by other people for not lifting a significant amount of weight. But in reality, they were at that situation in their life too. They've just been going for 3 years every day, and now they bench 315. And most people at the gym, they're not going to judge you. They're generally going to think, wow, you're a savage for being here. You're a savage for being here. At least that's how I think. I don't see anyone. Every time I see someone at the gym and I start to kind of judge them on my inside, because I'm not perfect, obviously. I do see people and I'm like, wow, he is weak. It sounds bad, but I catch myself and realize, okay, but that guy is probably thinking the same thing. And he's probably thinking, wow, I must look really weak to these guys. Not to me, because I am on the low end of the spectrum at Best Fitness. But those people who are first going, they're thinking the same thing. But I think they're more of a savage than I am for going, because they are aware of the judgment that they're going to get from other people. And generally that judgment is over-exaggerated and in their own minds, not necessarily in reality. So they think they're getting judged more than they realistically are. But the fact that they're still there at the gym is impressive. So I find myself, giving people a pass, and not just giving people a pass, but really thinking, wow, good job. Instead of thinking, wow, you're weak. It sounds bad, but I guess it's not that. I'm sure it's not very uncommon. I'm just saying it out loud, so it sounds bad. Lesson number 9, fake it till you make it. And this, obviously, there's things that you can fake it till you make it in bad ways and in good ways. Definitely a lot of good ways, definitely a lot of bad ways. I think a bad way that immediately pops up into my mind is you go over to a group of friends, or not friends, group of people that you want to be friends with, and you start telling them things about you that just might not be true. It might be a little exaggerated. So they think you're cool, and or so you expect them to think you're cool, and they want to be friends with you back. That is not exactly a fake it till you make it thing you want to do right there. So this is definitely a rule that you really have to be careful about, because there's a lot of ways that you can use it in a wrong way that you might not realize until after. So a positive way that you can do it, and I wrote this for motivation and then courage/confidence. I couldn't think of like the difference between those, courage and confidence. I feel like courage, I don't know. Anyway, faking it till you make it with motivation. It is a superpower. If you don't want to go to the gym, but you convince yourself that you want to go to the gym, and you go to the gym, you're going to have an amazing workout. It's just the reality of the situation. It just happens. If you don't want to go to work, but you tell yourself, I'm going to have a good day at work today, you're going to have a good day at work. If you are going up to a girl and you want to talk to a girl, but you're nervous, but you say, I'm not going to be nervous. I'm going to speak clearly. I'm going to say what I want to say to this girl. I'm going to ask for a number. I'm going to be very confident saying it. Not 100% of the time you're going to be confident, but you're going to be more confident than if you are just paralyzed, being nervous and scared and, well, what is she going to say to me? Like, what if I get rejected? Fake it till you make it with confidence. This happens with business deals as well. The people that you talk to in business are probably, maybe not, maybe their confidence is real, but there's a high likelihood that they're faking their confidence and they're just as nervous as you are. It's very, very likely. The difference is you respect them and you see them as someone not to mess with because they are acting confident, even if they aren't. So this is very good at business. It's very good with making friends, talking to girls. Fake it till you make it. And motivation. Motivation is a huge, huge factor in fake it till you make it. I don't know. I kind of do it with the podcast. I mean, like some days, some weeks, I just don't care to find someone to talk to because, you know, I love the podcast. I'm not saying I don't. But there, like I said, there's a lot of work that goes to it that isn't fun. But if I can convince myself and just tell myself, yeah, you're going to have a good time. You're going to have a good time. Like, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it. You're going to have a good time. Generally, I just have a good time. I mean, just how it is. And rule number 10, the last rule, you must live within the confines of reality, not what you wish to be reality. This is, all right, I have a little story here. I learned this from Louise Perry, who was on Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson's podcast, and she brought this up. So I learned it from her, and she was kind of talking about it in the context of the Me Too movement and when women... Okay, so feminists are now saying today that men and women, there's no difference between them. Not just feminists, there's a lot of people saying that, I guess. But a lot of people think there's no difference between men and women. They should be able to act the same, walk down an alley at night. They should be completely fine. And that's all good and true. But then once, I don't know, like a man, 99% of men can kill 99% of women with their bare hands if they wanted to. And that's just a reality of the world. And when they were talking about it with Me Too, they were kind of bringing up how, like, if I could snap and all the rapists would disappear, I would. But I can't. So the advice that I'm going to give to my daughter is different than the advice that I'm going to give to my son. Because I care about my daughter and I want her to be safe, I may want her to be able to walk down a city street at night alone in the dark. I may want her to be fine doing that. And do I think that she should be able to do that? Absolutely. I think she should have the freedom to do that, and she does have the freedom to do that. But there's consequences for doing stuff, even if it's not your fault. Like, I'm not going to tell her to do that. I'm going to tell her, I'm going to be calling her, say, hey, let me know when you're home. Make sure you're home before 11. Make sure you don't go home with any other guys. Like, if the guy does something that she doesn't want, it's not her fault. But there was steps that she could have taken to not be in that situation to begin with. And that's just living within the confines of reality, not what you wish to be reality. Like, I wish that my daughter, my future daughter, could have enough freedom, enough strength, and would be able to fend off men who are trying to attack her at night. I wish that was the case, but I know that that's not real, so I'm not going to act like that. And this lesson sounds very obvious, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. If you just look at the world for a few minutes, you'll realize that there's some people that should hear this rule. And I think this also can be, in the dating market, this can kind of be attributed to. I don't know. There's a lot of good people in this world, and a lot of good and bad people in this world. But the dating market is for sure different than it used to be. It's not as, I don't know if I'd say easy. It's just different. I mean, like, you can contact women online. You can talk to girls online. You don't have to go up to them in bars. It's just different. Like, life is different. The dating market is very different than it was even 20 years ago with the internet and stuff like that. And you just got to embrace how it is. Learn how to thrive within the world as it is. You're not going to succeed just doing what you want to do and hoping that the world confines to you, because it's not going to. I'm not saying that the world is perfect, and I'm actually saying quite the opposite, that the world is not perfect, and you need to learn how to thrive within that. And I've learned that over this year of podcasting. But that's the end. I would like to say thank you to you all who have stuck around. If you're new, no matter who you are, if you're watching this, you're the type of person that is going to have a positive future. If you apply on all the things I say, definitely don't just subscribe to what I say wholesale all the time. Do your research. I have different opinions than you, likely, so you don't have to listen to everything I say. Definitely take it into consideration and see if you think it'll work out for you. But I think generally what I'm saying is positive for people. But I don't know. Like, if you're the person that's listening to podcasts like this, Chris Williamson says it too. Like, if you're the type of person that listens to these types of podcasts, you are likely going to be ahead of most people. Not necessarily financially, but maybe financially, maybe maturity. You're going to be more mature than other people. You are going to be more emotionally sound, mentally sound. You're just going to have more knowledge of the world and how people work. So, I don't know. Be proud of yourself, I guess, for listening to me, and keep listening to me. Thank you. But if you do like this episode, please like, share, subscribe. As always, I don't know. Follow me on Instagram, off.campus.podcast. I am uploading clips there, not every day, but almost every day. I think I have like 1,000 followers right now. I want more. So, I don't know. That's it. Thank you again. we will have many more years, many more of these episodes where it's me alone for other lessons that I'm inevitably going to learn over the next couple of years, at least. Stick with me. We're going to make it big. So you could say you were in the first 1,000 subscribers. How about that? When I finally make it in 2027. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. But thanks again for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.